Hello friends, welcome to a Lovely Yarn podcast. My name is Amber. Today is Wednesday, October 4th, and I am coming to you from the beautiful and very autumnal rolling hills of western Pennsylvania. Thank you so much for joining me. I am excited to be here talking with you all today. So I think we're just going to go ahead and get started. I sat down to film after gathering all of my stuff, and I thought I'm going to take some notes about what I want to go over, and then I just thought, no, I'm just going to dive right in today. So we're going to see. I'm working without notes, but this is honestly how I used to do my podcast way back when I started, which I think I started podcasting in 2018. So yeah, 5 years ago. But anyway, I just want to thank you, first of all, up front, just want to thank you all for your comments, your likes, for subscribing. And if you're new here and you like what you see whenever you finish watching, I would encourage you to go ahead and hit the subscribe button. And yeah, I just appreciate all of the feedback that I get from you guys, all of your suggestions and recommendations. I've actually learned quite a lot just from viewers' comments when I've presented certain knitting problems, or I've asked for certain advice or for pattern recommendations. You guys always pull through, and so I greatly appreciate that. I also want to take a quick minute to recognize, not by name because I don't always have that information, but just to acknowledge and thank those of you who have supported this channel and myself through my Ko-Fi account. And I really do appreciate that. That means a ton to me. I don't receive any monetization from YouTube. For those of you who have been around here for a while, you probably know that story. But I have applied over and over again to get my channel monetized, and it's been denied every time. This has been over a 2-year period of time. So I never have been able to figure out why that is, but it's okay, because that means that I am assuming that means you're not seeing commercials during my videos, which that was always kind of something that I wasn't sure that I really wanted. Do I want commercials interrupting my videos? It doesn't matter. I don't have a choice right now because I can't get monetization. So I said all of that because I just want to let you guys know, those of you, well, all of you, for watching and liking and all that, because it helps tremendously. But for those of you who have specifically felt led to make a donation to the channel through Ko-Fi, I really appreciate it. So all of my social media links are down below. I'm basically just on Instagram. I don't really update Ravelry because it's just always has felt very tedious to me. So I don't include my Ravelry link. I don't think I include my Ravelry link down below. And I've started keeping a knitting journal so that I can look back and see all of my projects there. But I do have my podcast email down below if you ever want to reach out. Some of you have, and I apologize if I don't get back to you. Sometimes it takes a really long time for me to get back to people, and I'm talking like it could take a couple of months. And it's a funny thing, and it's one of those things that I'm just back and forth about, but I have a very limited amount of time, and so I always want to keep my family and the things going on in my real life as first priority. So I typically do respond to comments and emails, or at least acknowledge them, but it may take a while, but it's not because I'm ignoring you or I don't appreciate you reaching out. So just want to put that out there. Yeah, it's just, it's one of those things where you just have to learn to balance, because there's just a lot. There's a lot in life. So I want to show you real quick what I'm wearing. I wear this a lot on here. I wear this a lot in real life, and I think you guys have probably seen this a lot. So you probably know what this is, but this is my Anchors summer shirt that I knit I think in the spring. This is by Petite Knit Designer, and it is Drops Belle color 23, which is, I think, mint cream. And I really like this yarn because it's very drapey. And I just want to share something. So I just made a reel for Instagram, which I've only made a couple of reels on Instagram. But I just made a reel because I thought I want to share with everyone how I extend my summer knitwear to go into like the fall and winter. And especially for those of us who cannot necessarily wear a like full-fledged wool sweater in the house because we just run a little hot, or we're going through those particular seasons in our lives where we're running hot. I find this to be a great alternative, and it's kind of like, you know, wearing a vest over a shirt, but using what you already have and not having to make anything extra. So I'm going to put a little film in here on the side. Basically what I do is I have probably 5 long sleeve button down collared shirts, and I would say all of them but one I've picked up at thrift stores. I always keep my eyes out for them at thrift stores because they can make, I just like the classic look of a button down collared shirt, but also they make great layering pieces. So what I do is I just take my short sleeved knitted summer shirts and I just plop them on over a long sleeve button down, and it's kind of like the perfect amount of warmth for me at this season in my life. And I love that I can take shirts that I love, like this one, and I can wear them all year round rather than just in the like warmer months of the year, because I have about 4 to 5 months, if we're lucky, of warm weather where I would be wearing summer shirts. So it's nice to be able to extend the life of them and get more use out of them. So that's just a little trick that I use that I wanted to share with you guys. I want to talk about my finished object next. I only have one this time, but it's a sweater, so I feel like it counts as more than just one. This is my Ranunculus, and I am co-hosting a knit along. It's my very first knit along to ever host, but I'm co-hosting it with Diana and Kaity of the Fruitful Hands podcast, and I will include the information for that knit along down below in case you have not heard of it yet. But it is basically, we're all knitting Ranunculus sweaters. Now this is my 4th Ranunculus sweater, and I know Diana has knitted multiples, and I'm not sure about Kaity. I don't know if she has or not, but we thought, I love this sweater. I know there are some people who don't understand the hype around it, and I don't typically, I'm not typically a knitter who likes to knit things that are on trend, as in trending patterns. I typically don't want to knit things that everybody is making a hype over. So I did not knit my first Ranunculus when the whole hype first started, just because I'm stubborn like that and I refused to do it. However, a friend of mine, I think it was, I forget when I knit my first one, but my friend Jody, who I've talked about numerous times on here, she owns a sheep farm, so she is a shepherdess, and she also has a yarn dyeing business, which I might take a little bit of a tangent here because since I'm talking about Jody. But anyway, Jody knit a Ranunculus maybe 2 years ago. I can't remember. Jody, you can correct me. Or maybe she knit the Love Note and she had, I can't remember, something, Jody influenced me and made me want to knit this, the Ranunculus. And she gifted me the pattern. And so when she gifted me the pattern, I thought, all right, I'm going to do it. So anyway, I've knit many of these, but this is my most recent one. And it is, I knit this in a week and a half. Okay, so I have said before that every Ranunculus that I have knit has just flown by. It's such a fast knit for me. And I think it's maybe because I've always knit with at least a sport weight, but I think, I'm trying to think back through my other 3. Most of them have been DK weight. This is my first worsted weight Ranunculus. And I wanted, at first I was going to knit it out of this like off-white held double with an undyed mohair. But then I thought, oh, I want a black one. I feel like a black one would be really useful for me. Now I realized, some of you pointed out when I talked about this in my last episode, that this comes off as a very bluish, like navy color. And I see that now that I'm looking at it on the screen. It does. But I mean, okay. First of all, let me tell you what the yarn is. I'm getting ahead of myself. It's wool of the Andes, and it is a worsted weight. This is by Knit Picks. 110 yards per skein, I believe, right? Yes. The colorway is Onyx Heather. Okay, so it's a very charcoal, like deep grayish black. Okay. Sorry about that. I had my window open because it's beautiful out. Actually, it's October 4th, and I'm wearing shorts today in a short sleeve shirt, and I'm probably going to have to even change out of this and put something lighter on because it is so warm. Yesterday was also, I think it was like 80. I don't know. This is strange weather for this time of year. It's not typical. But anyway, back to my ranunculus. So when I look at it in real life, I can see in certain lighting a blue tint, like a blue hue to it. But when I just glance at it, it definitely looks like a very dark charcoaly color. However, when I was blocking this, so I blocked it yesterday, and it's already dry, which I blocked it, and then I took my little drying rack outside and I hung it in over the drying rack and kind of like pulled it apart to the shape I wanted it instead of blocking it flat on mats. Because I wanted it to dry quick, and it was hot and sunny yesterday. So it drew, I mean, it's completely dry now. But anyway, oh, when I was blocking this, it turned the water a like really intensely deep blue color. So that makes sense. And yeah, look, it does. It looks blue. It does. But it's not. It's not blue, but it has blue dye in it, obviously. And just a heads up, if you guys use this particular shade of the wool of the Andes, it bled a lot. It bled a lot. After soaking it, I ran it under like room temperature water and just kept kind of like squishing out the dye, trying to get all the dye out until it ran. I don't know that it was running clear, but it was pretty close. I just wasn't patient enough, and I will hand wash this separate anyway. It's not a superwash yarn, so it has to be hand washed. So let me talk about what I did. I knit I've had people asking me questions about how I knit my ranunculi, because it's like as far as sizing and how I can just change yarn weights and adjust needle size and get different, like make it fit. Okay, I don't know exactly how it works, because it's funny to me that it does work so well, but it does. And the thing I love about this is that everyone casts on the same, and the yoke is knit the same for, I'm pretty sure, every size, if I'm remembering correctly. And then you do raglan increases when you finish the yoke, and that is where you start adjusting for your bust size. So I have always knit the smallest size for this pattern, and I just kind of, I don't know if it's because I've been knitting for such a long time, but I knit my yoke and then I kind of play around and decide what size I would want to do. Every time I've made this, I've ended up just knitting the smallest size, but because I knit all of this first and I can kind of try it on and pull it down over my shoulders, because you can see the yoke goes the whole way down to here. So I can get my whole yoke done, pull it over my head since it's top down, and then I can decide how many raglan increases I want to do. And so that's what I love about this pattern, the flexibility of it. That's one of the things I love about it. Okay, so I cast on 60 stitches using a long tail cast on. It always looks, and that's the wider cast on, because she uses some sort of like tubular type of a thing, which I've never done because I never wanted to take the time to learn how to do it. I've never looked at her videos about it, but it always works out for me. Like, it often looks like it's going to be super small, but then once I block it, it's like perfect on my neck. I did have some of you comment and say that you skip the cast on and go right to like the 90 stitches. So I cast on 60 stitches, and then you do your ribbing which this is a paid for pattern, so I can't really tell you everything. But some of you said you just started the 90 stitches, and if you own the pattern, you know what I'm talking about. So you just kind of, and then there's other people that will just cast on a certain number of stitches that they think is going to be great, and then they'll just figure out where to place the increases to get to where they need to get to start the yoke. So again, it just seems really flexible. You have to be a little bit confident in yourself and just go with it and trust it. But so let me look at my notes, because I did want to say a couple of things as far as how I adjusted this pattern. Okay, so after I split for the sleeves, I knit 10 inches of the body, and then I did my hem. Now, the first time I did my hem, I did a split hem, and I made it longer in the back than in the front. And in fact, I had posted a picture on Instagram. If I still have it, I'll put it up here. But that was actually, that picture was with the split hem. Now, it looked fine from the front, and I think it probably would have been fine after blocking. But along the side, the hem was super stretched out because this was the smaller size. If I had knit like the size 2, the split hem probably would have worked just fine. But it was a little tight, and I was nervous about that. So I ended up ripping out the split hem, and I just did 3.5 inches of the twisted rib on the bottom. Okay, then my sleeves, so let me show you. I had 6 skeins of this. This was actually yarn I've had for a couple of years, and that I bought for a different sweater that I never ended up knitting. This is all I have left out of the 6 skeins. So I cast it on my sleeves, and I was doing them at the same time. And what I ended up doing is, I thought I was going to make them 3/4 length, but they're somewhere in between 3/4 and bracelet length. Okay. So what I did is I knitted as the pattern stated to knit them. And then when I got to the bottom, I decreased quickly by 8 stitches to make it kind of like a little puff there. You see how that is? And then I did just a regular, I did 5 rounds of a regular 1x1 ribbing before binding off. And then I did bind off with a tubular bind off. I did not use the tubular bind off on the bottom. I just bound off in pattern, because that is way, I know people do it, and I have done it, but I do not enjoy doing a tubular bind off with yarn, with a yarn tail. So when you do a tubular bind off, you're supposed to like do yarn that's 3 times as long as your circumference. That's a really long yarn tail to be weaving in and out. So I typically just loosely bind off in pattern, or I'll do some sort of loose bind off. But anyway, for the sleeves, because they are a small circumference, I did do the tubular bind off. So speaking of that, I wanted to share with you an app that I have on my phone that I find pretty helpful at times. I have had this app for a long time, so I do not know if there is a charge for it. There's not a monthly charge, I will say that, but it is possible that I did pay a small fee to purchase the app back at the beginning, but I've probably had this app for like 3 or 4 years, so I can't remember. But I think it's called Row Counter. I'm filming on my phone, and the app is on the phone, so I can't look, but I did take some screenshots of it yesterday so that I can kind of show you what it looks like in now I have an Android, so this is what it looks like in the, where I would buy my apps for my Android phone. And then the feature that I really like a lot, and the one that is actually what I use this app for the most, is this feature to decrease your stitches evenly. So you can put in how many stitches you start with and where you want to get down to, which is how I did this. I could figure it out, but this is so much faster, right? So you just plug in your number for the number of stitches you have, which in my case was 48, and I wanted to get down to 40 stitches. So, and then you just enter that in, and then this app will tell you how to space those decrease stitches so that you get an evenly distributed decrease. I love that. While I was on there yesterday, I also saw that they had a swatch or a gauge. How did they call it? I can't remember. I'll put that here too. Basically, I think how this works is just how I've talked about before, using your gauge swatch to then taking your numbers for that and just being able to figure out, okay, wait, I'm not saying this right. So if you have a sweater you want to knit, but it's not the right, you're not getting the right gauge as the sweater because maybe you're using a different kind of weight of yarn, or maybe you're using a different needle size because you like how that fabric comes out with that needle size. There is a way to take your gauge swatch, use your count on how many stitches per 4 inches or stitches per inch, and then you do some really easy math to figure out which size of that sweater you should knit. So I've always done that just using a formula, like on paper, on my phone, using my calculator. It's really easy. However, I'm pretty sure that this tool, and I've never used it, but from what I'm looking at it, I'm pretty sure this tool does the same thing. You just plug your numbers in and it calculates it for you. I could be wrong because, like I said, I've never used it, but that's what it looked like to me. So you might want to check that out. I love it just for the ease of being able to figure out how to place my decreases evenly, you know, if you have to adjust for that. But, and this is not a sponsored post, by the way. This is just an app that I've had for a while and I've used and really like. Okay, so yeah, this is done. I'm really excited about it. I could not wear it today. It is just too hot. I put it on with shorts to do the little video because it's really warm. This yarn is slightly itchy. I feel like I'd be most comfortable if I had a cami on underneath this. But so it is a little itchy. So if you're thinking about using it for a sweater and you've never used the wool of the Andes worsted before, just keep in mind that it is, in my opinion, I mean, it won't keep me from wearing it, but it does have a little bit of scratch. And I think it had even more of a scratch today because I was already really hot when I put it on. I think that's all that I want to say about that. But if you are participating in it, do not forget to use, in the Ranunculus knit along, don't forget to use the hashtag on Instagram, and we will be pulling a prize. And I might as well just show you so far what I have for the prize. So I have a couple of things here that have been donated that I want to share with you. So let me get it. Okay. So the first thing, I had Susan of Delightful Works. She makes project bags. I had her reach out and she sent a bag to give away. Is this not so cute? It's like a bucket style bag. And I love her, I love these nice sturdy handles. She also sent one for me to keep, which was super kind of her. So thank you so much, Susan. But yeah, it's like a bucket style. You can see on the bottom. So it's wonderful because it'll stay open while you're knitting, which is nice. And then Jody, my friend who I was talking about earlier from Flower Hill Fleeces, she just had some yarn that she was thinking about destashing, and she's like, why don't you take this for a giveaway? So it is a sweater's quantity worth of Little Fox yarn, the Vixen, Vixen base. This was so generous of Jody because this is not cheap yarn, but it is, I think it's 400 yards, so it would be a sport weight. Although it looks more like a fingering weight to me, but it's 400 yards and 100 grams. Oh no, it's marked as a fingering weight. Okay. It's 80% superwash merino and 20% silk. So it is luxurious. You can see it has a very nice drape to it, even in the skein. So I'm still gathering some things, and I still have some things that are coming in the mail, but this is going to be my prize for the knit along for the Ranunculus knit along. So make sure to post over on Instagram using the hashtag fall into Ranunculus KAL 2023. I'll include that down below, and because that is where we will be picking prizes from. I'm giving a prize away, and Diana and Kaity are as well. If I talked about this last podcast episode, but if you do not live in the United States, because this particular physical prize is only for people who live in the United States because of the postage costs for me to ship it overseas. So if you don't live in the United States, I'm going to do something different, you know, probably a couple of patterns off of Ravelry of the winner's choice. And so, yeah. But the knit along it started last Saturday on the 23rd, which was the first day of fall, and it runs through November 30th, which is the last day of November. Trying to think if there's anything else. Oh, and if you don't have an Instagram account, if you don't use Instagram, please just send me a picture to my email down below, and that way we can get that, we'll add that in somehow. And if you send me a picture, you're giving me permission to use it on social media, so just be aware of that as well, because that's how we're going to pick. We're going to randomly choose it from the Instagram post, so I'm going to have to repost it with the hashtag. So if you send me a picture via email, I will be putting your photo onto social media. So just be aware of that. Do I have anything else to say about that? Oh yes, one more thing. You do not have to complete your sweater, but try to give it a good go, okay? As you can see, I mean, this is worsted weight, so it went super fast, but it is a fairly fast knit. So just, you know, try to give it a good go, because, yeah, anyway. Anyone's eligible for the prize. Okay, so that was my only finished object. I have two different whips that I want to share with you guys. This first one is a pair of socks, which is extremely, in my opinion, is extremely autumnal, and it is a pair of socks using some of my favorite sock yarn, commercial sock yarn, which is the Patons Kroy. Look at these. Aren't these the cutest? This is one of the self-striping yarns that Patons Kroy carries, and I originally purchased this at Hobby Lobby a couple of years ago. It is the mid-century stripes colorway, I believe. Hold on, let me check. Yeah, mid-century stripes. And I think this is so fun. I love this. I love these colors. And what I did, I'm knitting this. Now, this is labeled as a fine class 1 yarn, but I've talked about this before. You know, it's definitely sport weight. This is not, in my opinion, it's not a fingering weight, and I think many others agree with that. It definitely knits up like a sport weight. So the way I knit my socks that I use Patons Kroy or yarn that is similar in weight to it is I cast on 52 stitches, and I use a size 2 needle, US 2. And I have, just to give you an idea, I have a size 8, US 8 foot. Okay, so I don't know what that is European, 38 or 39 maybe. I could be wrong about that, but that gives me a nice fit. Okay, but anyway, I just did 15 rounds of ribbing up there, and then I did my foot, and then I just did, normally I do like a slip stitch heel, but I really just wanted to showcase the stripes, so I just did a stockinette heel flap. Just kept going with the stockinette, and yeah, now I'm working on the foot. And this is the first sock. I have 2 skeins of this, and each sock will take a good portion of 1 skein because I'm making them taller in the leg. So I don't have anything else to say about that other than I really like this yarn. And I think there's another one that Patons Kroy has. I think it's called 70s Stripes, and it's more of a blue toned striped, and it has the thicker, wider stripes like this. And I really like that yarn as well, although I don't have that, but that's another one that I've seen, and I thought, oh, that looks nice. So yeah, I'm calling these my vintage fall socks because these colors together just are very, in my mind, very vintagey. But going really fast because this yarn is a heavier weight. last up is my last whip that I want to talk to you about. And I think I might have mentioned wanting to start this last week when I filmed an episode, but I'm knitting another Sophie scarf. So I have knit, this will be my second one. Let me grab my first one actually so that you can see it. Okay, this is my first Sophie scarf. This is by Petite Knit, and she has a Sophie shawl and a Sophie scarf, and basically the Sophie scarf is just like the smaller version of the Sophie shawl. I have both patterns and I've made them both. So this is my original. It was knitted out of Knit Picks City Tweed in the kitten colorway. I believe that's the colorway it was. But ever since I knit this first one, I thought I would love to have one that's like a bright pop of color just to wear, because I wear a lot of neutrals, and I thought it would be fun to have a bright pop of color. So is this bright enough? I am knitting it out of Ruby and Rose's yarn. Let me find the tag. So Ruby and Rose's yarn, I bought this I think a couple of years ago as well. Most of my yarn that I have is at least 2 years old because I haven't been buying yarn much. But it is a fingering weight. It's 85% merino, 15% nylon, and I am knitting it held double to get like a DK weight. So I didn't want to do just holding it single. This is a DK weight as well. I think this is probably I wonder. Okay, now out of curiosity, I'm going to look back in my knitting journal, because when I started this new one, I just knitted up on the needle size suggested, which is a US 4. Okay, yes, so I also knit this one on a US 4. So this is coming out a bit thicker, and maybe the fabric is a tad bit stiffer than this one, which I like how this is so drapey. So this is not quite as drapey, but I think it's still going to be nice. And I love how bright it is. I really have been wanting to knit this in this particular pattern in a bright color. And I was thinking either bright orange, or I'm sorry, like this bright orangish red or a bright yellow. And I had this because I had bought this originally to knit myself a hat. And then I decided I need a scarf for it. So it's just really a really pretty tonal reddish orange, bright red. I think it's similar to, I would say this is similar to, if you're familiar with Pearl Soho's Linen Quill Poppy colorway. I think this is pretty close to that. What else did I want to say? Oh, the colorway name is Canna. I don't know that she still has this. This is the only yarn I've ever ordered from her. And I have to say, this is a very nice, like it's a very soft, luxurious feeling yarn. It's probably because it has 85% merino and only 15% nylon. But yeah, isn't that fun? So that's gonna be a fun little scarf. I did my increases. I don't know, I need to go back and you can kind of see, no, you can't probably. I increased so far. I think the pattern has 2 different sizes, but I never go by size. I just go by looking at it and saying, oh yeah, that looks like the right length. But basically you increase until you get to the middle and then you start decreasing. So it's supposed to be symmetrical. But what I've done, what I did with this one and what I did with the Sophie shawl is I've done my increases and then I've knit just a straight panel for a while without any increases or decreases, and then I've started my decreases. So that's how I'm doing this one as well. And right now I'm just kind of knitting back and forth. I've done all my increases on this end, so I'm knitting back and forth until I decide that I want to start my decreases. Does that make sense? Okay, so that is a fun little project, a nice little bright project to wear on the dreary days of winter. Okay, and now, gosh, I should have wrote notes because I feel a little bit discombobulated, but I was talking about Jody, and I was actually at her house yesterday because we're also neighbors, And I was actually going to get some yarn from her because I want to knit a hat for Brad. He wanted a blue hat. So I got this from her. It doesn't have a tag. One of the really nice things about having a yarn dyer for a friend is you get to go through her bins of yarn. So I was just kind of going through her bins, and she doesn't have everything tagged yet, but I'm going to knit Brad a hat out of this. I don't know if I don't think he watches my podcast, at least not in entirety, so I hope he doesn't see this. But because if he doesn't, if I can keep it a surprise, I'm going to knit it for him for Christmas. So I bought that, and then I also got a skein of her homegrown yarn, which I'm pretty sure she doesn't have any hand-dyed yarn on her website, but she has her homegrown yarn. And this is yarn from her sheep that she has raised. And then there's also some alpaca in this, which she does not have alpaca, but the mill that she has used provided the alpaca. So anyway, this is I'll show you the tag here. You can read what it says. And it's like a grayish beige. So can we call that grayish? Is that what they call it? But I want to make a hat. Just a really warm, fluffy, woolly hat out of this. So I went to her place with the intention of finding blue yarn for Brad's hat and very sheepy yarn for my hat. So this is what I got from there. And then while I was down there, she let me go through her D-stash yarns. And she gave me a really good deal on some D-stash. But this is where I need some help. So I found these two. Oh my goodness, so fallish. Okay, so this is Hedgehog Fibers, Skinny Singles. What is this? Pollen. That is a good name for that. And then this is Hue Loco Yarns, Falltastic. So I want to make something with these, and I think I want to make a shawl, a fall shawl. So I need, and I'm going to get on Ravelry and I'm going to do a search for 2 different colored shawls. But if you have any that you guys really like and that you've knit before using 2 different colors of yarn, let me know in the comments below, because these are perfect colors. Oh my gosh, perfect colors for fall. Nice, bright, and happy. So yeah, I got that from her as well. So anyway, wanted to show you just a few of my acquisitions. And do I have anything else? I also picked up a couple other things from her that, well, here, I'll show you this. I got this really pretty blue. It looks way more gray on the screen. In real life, it has like green undertone to it, so it's more teal, like a teal blue. But this is fingering weight, and I want to make a ranunculus out of this, held double with a mohair, but I need to find a mohair that will look good, and a mohair that will really let the blue colors, the blue tones, bluish green tones of this shine through. I don't want to subdue it too much. I mean, mohair always subdues the yarn a little bit, but I'm going to be on the lookout for something to hold double with this. So that is something that's going to happen in the future. Speaking of Jody, so apparently several of you reached out to her about the Farm Fresh Eggs colorway that I used to knit 3 different pairs of socks that I've talked about here on my podcast. And she is kind of phasing her hand dyeing business. She's not going to not do it, but she's going to be doing things a bit differently here in the future. So she doesn't actively have her hand-dyed yarn on her website. However, I guess a couple of you reached out to her and asked if she would be willing to dye up the Farm Fresh Eggs. And she told me that she is going to do a run of that. She's going to do a one-time run of it and put it on her website. So I will let you guys know when that goes up on her website, and you should also just go follow her on Instagram, so that I'm sure she'll post that there as well, and I will link her Instagram down below. What else? Yeah, anyway, so that'll be available for purchase because it is a really beautiful color, and apparently a lot of you guys liked that. And if you're local, I should say, if you're local, Jody does sell her hand-dyed yarn at Yarns by Design, which is in Oakmont, Pennsylvania. And they're re-releasing the Pittsburgh Latte colorway, which is a very saturated fall colorway. And I shared it. I'll try to remember to put a photo here. But that's going to be available at some point this month. I'm not sure when, in Yarns by Design. And you can also order that online. I do know that. They have it available in store and online. So yes. Anyway, that is everything with that. And I don't know, what else can we talk about? We have a trip coming up soon, and I'm super excited because it's to Emerald Isle, North Carolina, which is the very southern Outer Banks of North Carolina. So most people, when they hear the Outer Banks, they think of like the Outer Banks where there's, what is that, Corolla, Kill Devil Hills, I forget all those little beaches up there. But we actually go, when we go to the beach, we actually go to Emerald Isle, which is much further down. Almost down, like head down more towards Wilmington, towards the bottom of the state. And there is a yarn store near there in Swansboro, which is probably, I don't know, like a 10-minute drive from Emerald Isle. I can't remember because it's been a couple of years since we've been there. But it is called the Salty Sheep Yarn Store, yarn shop. I went there in 2021. I just, as I do when I go on vacation, I always Google yarn shops to see if there are any in the area. And sure enough, there it was. I had never, I don't know how I didn't know it was there in the past. I'm not really sure. Although we're not big beach people, so we haven't gone to Emerald Isle, like other than in 2021. It had been multiple years since we had gone there. But anyway, I went. I loved it. It was probably my favorite yarn shop I've ever been at. It was so cozy, so many beautiful yarns, just absolutely lovely. So I've been saving some money to go when I go there, to be able to go and to pick up some things at the Salty Sheep yarn store, yarn shop. I think that's what, I hope I'm calling it by the right name. I will link it down below. But yeah, I'm really excited. I'm not a big beach person, but I'm really excited about going to the yarn shop. That sounds so horrible. I'm going to enjoy my beach vacation for sure, but that's definitely going to be something that adds to the excitement of going to the beach, being able to go to that yarn shop again. So I actually, last time I was there, they had Kelbourne woolens. They had quite a bit of the Kelbourne woolens yarn, and I want to get the Scout to make the Rosalind tank by Sari Nordland. So that is one thing I'm going with the intention of buying, if they still have that yarn there. If not, it's okay. I can get it online, but I thought I would support like a physical yarn shop if I could. So yes, so we're going to be doing that here soon, and I'm looking forward to that. So I'm going to go ahead and end this podcast now. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you for your likes and your comments. And again, if you know of a two-colored shawl that you think would look good with this yarn, pop it down below, because I would love to have this ready to go for our road trip, because it's like a 9.5 to 10 hour drive for us. So that might be nice to have this shawl to work on while we're on our way. And I hope you guys are having a fantastic fall, or I guess spring, because some of you are in the southern hemisphere. Whatever time of the year it is, I hope you're having a fantastic time. You're enjoying your knitting, you're enjoying whatever else you're creatively getting into, and I will see you guys all next time. Thank you so much for watching.